All right, here we go. Lesson 6.1, relationship between diameter and circumference. Our learning objectives: identify the diameter and radius on a circle, calculate how to find the distance around the circle by using other measurements within the circle, be familiar with using the calculator to determine circumference, and have a clear understanding of the value of pi. Go ahead and pause the video and read the beginning problem before moving on. So circumference is a word associated with circles. A circle is a figure whose edge is made of points that are all the same distance from the center. This lesson is all about the circumference of circles. Let's begin by taking a look at what we mean when we use that word. The circumference of a circle is the distance around the outside edge of the circle. With other figures, we could find the perimeter of the circle. The perimeter is the distance around a polygon. Circles are not polygons because they are not made up of line segments. When we were finding the perimeter of a polygon, we found the sum of the outer edges. Circles are quite different. We can't add up the measurements of the edges because there aren't any. To understand circumference, we have to begin by looking at the parts of a circle. So what are the parts of a circle? So as you can see in this picture, this is one part of a circle. It is the distance from the center of the circle to the outer edge of the circle. We call this the radius. So from the center to the outside is called radius. So you can see that the distance across the center of the circle in this picture, so we go all the way across, going through the middle of it, is called the diameter. The diameter divides the circle into two equal halves. The diameter is twice as long as the radius. So now we know the basics of circles: the radius, the diameter, and the circumference. So let's see how we can use these elements in a formula to find circumference of a circle. So let's think about the relationship between the diameter and the circumference. Think about circles that are drawn on a playground. There are many different sizes and shapes of them. If we were to draw one circle with chalk, that circle would have a diameter and a circumference. If we were to draw a circle around the outside of this circle, so if we had our first circle here and then another circle out here, we would have a longer diameter and therefore a longer circumference. There's a relationship between the size of the diameter and the size of the circumference. What the relationship is a proportional relationship that we express as a ratio. A ratio simply means that two numbers are related to each other. Circles are special in geometry because this ratio of the circumference and the diameter always stays the same. So here are two examples of circles that have a diameter across the middle and the circumference around the outer edge. Okay. So for this first circle here, we've got a circumference of 6.28 and a diameter of 2. If we were to divide the circumference by the diameter, we would get 3.14. If we look at the second circle, we have a circumference of 12.56 and a diameter of 4. If we were to divide the circumference by the diameter here, we would get 3.14. This is that common ratio that we were talking about. If you take the circumference divided by the diameter, you will always get this special number, 3.14. That number, 3.14, is the rounded version of what we call pi. Okay, so we can write a general formula that shows the relationship between pi, circumference, and the diameter. And what that is circumference divided by diameter is equal to pi. If we rearrange this formula, we can also use it to find the circumference of a circle when we are given the diameter. So we can see that circumference is equal to pi times diameter. That is a big equation. Make sure you have that written down. We can use this formula to find the circumference of any circle. Remember, the number for pi is always the same, 3.14. We simply multiply it by the diameter to get the circumference. So if we are given this circle here, and we are asked to find the circumference, you'll notice that we are given the radius. Okay? The radius is 3 inches. Okay? Unfortunately, in our equation, we need the diameter. But if you remember, diameter is equal to twice the size of the radius. So if we take the radius and multiply it by 2, we would get the diameter. So our diameter is 6 inches. So what we can do now is plug that 6 inches in for the diameter and use 3.14 for pi, if we multiply those together, we will get our circumference of 18.84. So that is our circumference, 18.84 inches. We don't need to be given a picture to be asked to find circumference. So if we're asked to find the circumference of a circle with a radius of 3 feet, so again, we need diameter, and we know diameter is twice as big as our radius, I can find the circumference when we're given the radius. So again, I take 2 times my radius to get my diameter of 6, so 6 feet. Then I can plug that into my formula with 3.14, and I get that my circumference is 18.84 feet. So now we have a circumference of a circle with a radius of 8 inches. Go ahead and pause the video, find the circumference, and then hit play and see how you did. So if the radius is 8 inches, we should have a diameter of 16 inches. And if we plug that into our formula and multiply it by 3.14, we should get that our circumference is 50.24 inches. So now we're going to look at what happens when we're given the diameter. So find the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 12 meters. So now we don't have to do any extra work. We are already given our diameter, so we can take that and multiply it by our 3.14. And when we do that in this problem, we get a circumference of 37.68 meters. Our next example, we have find the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 10 feet. So again, we are given the diameter outright. We don't have to do any extra work. We can take that and plug it in and multiply it by 3.14, which would get us a circumference of 31.4 feet. Okay, remember, we need to include labels here. Go ahead and pause the video and find the circumference of a circle that has a diameter of 7 yards, and then hit play and see how you did. Since we're given the diameter right away, we go ahead and plug that in and multiply it by 3.14, getting us a circumference of 21.98 yards. Here's the completion of the real life problem. Pause the video and read through that before moving on. So to review, C, D, and R are all symbols used to represent calculations of circles or parts of circles. Circumference is the distance around the circle. Perimeter is the distance around a two-dimensional shape. A circle is a closed plane curve consisting of all points that are a given distance from a point within it called the center. The distance from the center of the circle to the outside edge of the circle is called the radius. The distance across the center of the circle is called the diameter. And pi is a name given to the ratio of the circumference of the circle to the diameter. And again, we're going to use 3.14 for pi.